Are the Los Angeles Dodgers finally getting ready to play their best baseball of the season? That's coming up next on Locked On Dodgers.
You are Locked On Dodgers, your daily Los Angeles Dodgers podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to Locked On Dodgers. My name is Travis Rogers. Your first listen every single day, free and available wherever you get your podcasts. Welcome back to all the everydayers. Welcome back to those of you that may have checked out my first Locked On Dodgers show yesterday, and maybe you know me from my work on Locked On Rams with my pal Doug McCain, my radio work here in Los Angeles on ESPN 710. Covered the Dodgers, I've covered the Angels, I've covered the Lakers, USC football, the Rams, a whole bunch of stuff, but I am absolutely thrilled to be here with the Dodgers. So you can follow me on Twitter and Instagram at Travis Rogers as well. Don't forget to check out all the postcast work right here after each and every Los Angeles Dodgers game. Pete Fox has got you covered with all of that. So let's jump right into this. The Dodgers getting closer to the halfway point of the season, getting closer to that point where I think we've all been waiting for them to kind of take off and really look like the team that we've been hoping that they would be all season long. And it's kind of a mixed bag, right? Because it's weird to have a team like the Dodgers. It's weird to have a team that is in first place, to have a team that's got a 48-31 record and yet feel like they should be playing a lot better baseball. And that's exactly how I feel about it. And I think if you are watching the Dodgers closely and certainly understand what they have in their everyday lineup, what they have potentially on the mound night after night, that this feels like something that they have performed just a little bit below the line. Let me explain. This was a team that after the offseason that they have, obviously winning the World Series last year, coming in as the team to beat, going out and signing some top line guys like Blake Snell, Tanner Scott, Kirby Yates, winning the Roki Sasaki sweepstakes. There was, I think, an expectation, arguably an inaccurate expectation, that this team would automatically win 110 games, 115 games. Maybe they would push the all-time record for wins in a single season. That was unrealistic, I think. But it also kind of informs where we are on this team globally, that their day-to-day roster, their starting lineup, their 8 guys that they run out there more days than not, is better than just about everybody. And I should even say just about everybody else. It is better than everybody else's lineup. Doesn't mean you're going to win every night, but it means that you got better players. So the bar was set incredibly high where this team was going to be. And they got off to an incredible start. They won their first 8 games of the season. Quite frankly, they got a little lucky in some of those games. Some of it was well played. Some of it was very fortunate. Some of it was, the early part of the season where everybody isn't firing at their best. But, they beat the Detroit Tigers 3 games at Dodger Stadium to kick off. And it looked like, okay, here we go. Maybe the Tigers, but no, Tigers are a really good team. So anyway, the point being, this is a team that had expectations that are through the roof. Hasn't really happened since that opening stretch of the season. They've been good, not great. And when you look at what they've been able to do, really with a couple of exceptions, no one has performed at or above expectations. There's been a lot of guys very close to expectation, but other than Shohei Ohtani and Will Smith, is there anybody that has performed above expectation? I don't think that there is. I think that Freddie Freeman got off to a very good start, has cooled dramatically over the recent weeks. I think you could say that Mookie Betts has been something less than Mookie Betts. Now, by regular Major League Baseball standards, Mookie Betts is having a fine season, maybe even a better than fine season, maybe a very good season. But by Mookie Betts standards, I think that it's slightly below the line. I think that he would probably tell you the same thing. It's not bad. It's not that it isn't that every team in baseball would like to have him on their team. They would. But it also isn't that peak Mookie that we've seen. We saw Max Muncy get off to a terribly slow start. We still see what's going on in left field with Michael Conforto. He has not been able to find any sort of rhythm. And the everydayers, by the way, you will get used to me talking about Michael Conforto until one of two things happens. Either he gets hot or he doesn't play. Andy Pajas is another one that has performed above expectations. So give him some credit for that as well. And Teo, while good, has not been the best version of Teoscar we've seen. So this is why I think the Dodgers, while in first place, comfortably as we get closer to the All-Star break, comfortably as we get closer to the halfway part of the season, is still not exactly where they are. And that's just the offensive part. You look at what they had on the bench. You look at Chris Taylor, no longer here. Austin Barnes, no longer here. Kike Hernandez performing at a level, at least offensively, that is below expectation. Now, that's not a big deal because that's not why he's here. He's here for, we all know why he's here. He's here for October. He's here to make big hits. He's here to kind of bring a certain level of energy to this team day in and day out. So you can put him in a separate category. Tommy Edman has had some injury issues. Tommy Edman got off to a great start. He has cooled. So all of these things are preamble to say they really haven't caught where all of these guys are clicking, or most of these guys are clicking at the same time. So put that over there for a second. I think that speaks to the offensive side. The big difference why this team isn't this steamroller, isn't just going downhill and just taking out everybody, winning series after series after series, even though they win more series than they lose, obviously, is because of what's been going on the mound. And I think that is why things are about to change for the better. I think that is why that this team is about to go, whether you want to call it on a hot streak, get back to their expectation, whether it's a scheduling opportunity. You look at what's coming up next between Colorado and Chicago, 6 of the next 9 games, and you've got some series coming up with maybe some potentially softer opponents, Cincinnati and whatnot. So you've got some opportunities there. But what is really taking place is what's happening on the mound. And you're finally starting to see the outline of a pitching rotation that is what, maybe not what you were expecting, maybe not ideally what you were hoping, but at least resembles a regular starting rotation or something that is the Dodger version of that. Think about what I mean. Yoshinobu Yamamoto has taken the ball every time. Now, you heard it here first. Don't be surprised if all of a sudden he takes a little break. If he's got a little something, maybe it's not something like he did last year where he misses 3 months, but I think that the Dodgers are going to baby him towards the finish line so he can be at his best the way he was a year ago. But that being said, Yamamoto's taking the ball every day. I think that you can feel good that he's healthy and performing at a high level. Dustin May has taken the ball in his spot in the rotation regularly. But beyond that, this has been a complete mixed bag. There have been bullpen days. There have been guys that have been in the rotation and then out of the rotation, talking about Sasaki, talking about Snell, talking about Glasnow, talking about Tony Gonsolin, talking about Robleski and Knack, and these guys that have come in and out, then none of them have really grabbed a hold of it, whether it's through performance that is mediocre or whether it is through health. But no one has really been able to solidify their spot in that rotation. That's starting to change. And I think that's what's going to be the big part about what's coming up next. Because while Ohtani is only going an inning, that's not going to last forever. He's going to get stretched out sooner than later to where you're seeing a 2-inning start, a 3-inning start. And before long, you're going to see him going as long as he can based on his performance. So Shohei Ohtani is starting to hold down a rotation spot. Don't look now, but Clayton Kershaw has gone out there and been not a can he get to 3,000, which, by the way, we're going to talk about coming up next, but can he hold on to this spot in his rotation as we get closer and closer towards the postseason? Is he going to be a guy that gets a start in October? And what seemed like a crazy question at the beginning of the season, I think anybody that follows this team closely would have said, probably not. And if he is, what does that mean for the state of the Dodger pitching? I don't know if that's true anymore. So Kershaw is rounding into form. He's rounding into the ability to go into the 5th and 6th inning on a somewhat regular basis. And now all of a sudden you've got 2 other guys in the mix that are really starting to take the ball on a somewhat regular basis. And I think that one of them is a surprise and one of them is something that you could feel pretty good about at the start of the season. The one that you could have felt decent about, that we've seen the outline of a good starting pitcher in the time that he's been there, is Emmett Sheehan. He's going to get more opportunities. He looked great in his first one back. He has a short track record in the major leagues, but a track record of decent success, of being able to take some innings down. And I think you're going to see that happen more frequently. And then the other big one is Ben Kasparias. Ben Kasparias has shown that maybe he's not taking the ball first. Maybe he is taking the ball first. But this is somebody that you can reliably count on to give you 4 or 5 or more innings on a regular basis. So the trickle down, and by the way, we haven't talked about Sasaki coming back, unlikely. Haven't talked about Snell coming back, likely, but cross your fingers and shrug your shoulders and who knows when. Tyler Glasnow, pause longer, right? Who knows what that is, but you're starting to see more and more options, and we all know what this means. The more starting pitching you have, the less relief pitching that you need on a day-to-day, the more often your high leverage relievers get rest, the more often you're able to use those middle guys in more advantageous roles. And I think that you're finally starting to get some of these guys back. You're finally starting to get a little bit of a scheduling break. They've just gone through a month of playing really somewhere between pretty good to very good teams over the last month or so. That's coming to an end, or at least backing off in intensity a little bit, getting a whole bunch of your starting pitching back, or at least you can see it from here. Ohtani, it's Knack. I shouldn't say Knack. It's Ohtani, it's Sheehan, and certainly Clayton Kershaw has been a big part of that, which will bring us to what we want to get into next. Can Clayton Kershaw get number 3,000 in Colorado against the Rockies, which is coming up later this week? It's coming up. Guys, you've probably heard of Viagra or Cialis, and maybe you've even tried them. But if you're looking for something beyond the usual pill, it is time to meet Rougier Ready. Rougier Ready is the next-gen prescription treatment designed to amplify arousal in the brain and boost blood flow. That's important, obviously. Unlike the usual pills that can take hours, Rougier's 3-in-1 formula dissolves under your tongue and kicks in fast, on average, about 15 minutes. And the effects of the pill can last up to 36 hours, so you can stay confident and in control when the moment is just right. So if traditional options have not worked for you, Rougier might be the answer. Over 150,000 men have already made the switch, and it is completely online. Rougier connects you with a board-certified doctor and ships your treatment discreetly right to your front door. You can even read real customer reviews on their sites. It's helping a lot of people feel more confident and present in the moment. Head to Rougier.com/LockedOnMLB right now and use code LockedOnMLB to get 15% off today. That's RUGIET.com/LockedOnMLB and use promo code LockedOnMLB for 15% off. Individual results may vary with prescription treatment. Compounded drugs are permitted to be prescribed under federal law, but are not FDA approved and do not undergo FDA safety, effectiveness, or manufacturing review. Please review the Rougier website for full safety information. Welcome back to Locked On Dodgers. My name is Travis Rogers. Locked On Dodgers, free and available wherever you get your podcast. Make sure you check it out every day. You're going to want to join that everydayer club, which means that you never miss an opportunity to listen to Locked On Dodgers. You can subscribe online and, of course, on our YouTube channel as well, so you never miss a moment of Dodger baseball. And a big moment in Dodger history is coming up here imminently, right? And it's something that felt like might have been the topic of the day coming into the season, and maybe just something to check a box, much more so than, hey, this is actually an indication that he has rediscovered some sort of groove. Of course, we're talking about Clayton Kershaw and his 3,000th strikeout, which is just 8 strikeouts away. He is currently sitting on 29.92 and has been able to rack up some strikeouts at a rate that I think was, probably a little bit more surprising than anybody might have thought coming into this. Now, that sounds kind of crazy, right? That somebody with the pedigree of Clayton Kershaw, somebody that has been in the major leagues for as long as Clayton Kershaw has, we're talking about 18 seasons, that has had strikeout seasons, way north of 200 multiple times in his career, 248 back in 2011, 232 in 2013, 301 back in 2015. That, of course, was a all-star MVP voting season. So all sorts of great seasons in Clayton Kershaw's past. But when you look at what he had been able to do over the last couple of years, especially last year in 2024, where he did not pitch much at all, just 24 strikeouts, did not log a ton of innings, just 30 innings last year. Before that, toe injury took him out. And now we're talking about him being over that mark, 32 2/3 innings already. He's matched that strikeout total with 24 already. And it's just a matter of time before he finally gets it. And while that will be exciting, and while that will put him in an incredibly small group of major league pitchers that have hit that 3,000 strikeout threshold, what was supposed to be a moment to celebrate Clayton Kershaw, and it still will be, right? That Clayton Kershaw hitting a moment like that is still remarkably impressive. I think it is far more an indicator of the fact that he's pitched as well as he has this season. That this is not a, hey, let's just get him to the finish line. Let's get him 3,000. Let's see if we can squeeze those last couple of strikeouts out of him so we can let, for lack of a better phrase, the real pitchers get to work on getting ready for the postseason. That, who knew if he would even be healthy at this point of the season? Who knew if he would be able to stay in the rotation at this point of the season? That it felt like, it may be a start here or there with one or no strikeouts and that the clock would just keep spinning. That really has not been the case at all. He's looked maybe not like vintage Clayton Kershaw, but what he's looked like is a quality major league pitcher. And you kind of look at the numbers this year, and just about everything other than maybe his whip looks very Clayton Kershaw-y. The record, for whatever that's worth, is unblemished at 3-0. His ERA is at 3.31, which is, in baseball in the year 2025, pretty darn good. Now, the whip is at 1.316, which is a little bit higher than what you look at, especially when you look at his career numbers, which is just barely over 1, that he's pitching with a little more traffic. And certainly he's pitching differently than he ever has before. But the fact of the matter is, he's putting the Dodgers in a place where they have a chance to win the game just about every single time he takes the ball. And I don't think that was an expectation that anybody had. Now, some of it is he's gotten some pretty good run support. Some of it is he's met the right opponent at the right time. But quite frankly, who cares? Who cares? This is somebody that's putting himself in a position to do this. And 3,000 is going to be an incredible accomplishment. 3,000 with one team, 3,000 with just the Los Angeles Dodgers. I mean, we're talking about an incredible accomplishment if you kind of knock around at the end of your career, just going from here to there to grab a strikeout here, a dozen there, 100 more over there. That is not what Clayton Kershaw has done. He's collected all of them right here in Los Angeles wearing a Dodger uniform. And who knows how far he goes beyond that, because like we talked about in the previous segment, this is something that is unexpected, but is also deeply needed. That at the beginning of the year, the opportunities, the innings, you knew they were going to come because you knew that the 5 guys that they were going to run out there were not going to pitch. They weren't all going to make 35 starts, that opportunities would come along. But they came along much quicker than I think maybe anybody would have anticipated or anybody would have hoped for. And he stepped into that breach and has been able to continue to perform at a major league level, which is extraordinary at this point in his career. No, he's not lighting up the radar gun. And maybe that breaking ball doesn't have quite the snap and the break that it might have had at one point, but it still works. The margins are different. There are going to be days where he is not able to muscle his way through where maybe he could be. That if he's not landing, that you watch as many games as I do, this, right? If he's ahead 0-1, we got a shot. If he's behind 1-0, buckle up and let's see what happens next. But he's so smart. He is so skilled. He is so savvy. He is so experienced that he's going to find a way to get guys out night in and night out. Now, whether he gets it in Colorado, I don't know. If I had to bet, I would bet against it. I just don't think that that's likely going to happen there for the most obvious reason of all. Now, Colorado's obviously not a good team. We'll talk about that coming up in future episodes of Locked On Dodgers, certainly once the Rockies series gets started here later today. But the Rockies may not be loaded up with all-star caliber hitters the way they might have been in years past. Ball doesn't break in Colorado. Clayton Kershaw at this point in his life is a curveball pitcher, a sinker curveball sort of guy. And in Colorado, that's not a great recipe. Colorado is weird under the best of circumstances. And I don't know if being in your 18th season, relying exclusively on pinpoint control and having a big breaking ball is the best of circumstances in Colorado. So take that for what it's worth. I don't think it happens. Maybe we'll see. I think when his next start as we get a little closer to the All-Star break. Maybe he slides one more in. Maybe there's one more after the break that is ultimately the record breaker. But it is coming soon. We'll spend a ton of time talking about exactly where that puts him. Never mind in Dodger history. He's solidified his place in Dodger history on the shortest list of greatest Dodger pitcher of all time. They're basically two options at this point. It's Koufax or Kershaw. A lot of other really good ones, whether you're talking about Don Drysdale or Don Sutton or Oral Hershiser, Fernando Valenzuela. There are a ton of great options, but Kershaw is right near the top of the list along with Sandy Koufax. So we can kind of peel that onion as we get a little bit closer to it later once it finally goes down. But sit back and enjoy the Clayton Kershaw show. It's not going to last forever. It's lasted a lot longer than I think a lot of us might have expected. And it's been, I mentioned this on my radio show a little bit too. There are moments where you're watching it kind of, through your fingers, like you're watching a scary movie, because it doesn't feel like he's got the ability to just say, all right, I'm going to hunker down and blow my way out of this. And I'll make sure that nothing happens here. I'll keep this small. Big innings feel possible. Loud contact feels possible. But when you are as skilled and you are as experienced and you are as competitive as Clayton Kershaw, that 3,000th is coming soon, and I can't wait to see it. And, oh, by the way, I also saw something the other day with Kershaw that I never thought I'd see. He was the first one over the rail in the war with the Padres, or at least the last chapter in the war with the Padres. And Ohtani put his hand up and said, no, we're good. He went back over. That Clayton Kershaw was taking the lead from somebody else, I thought was really interesting. In fact, we will get into that coming up next. Is the battle with the Padres, the I hit one, you hit one, I hit one thing, are we finally done with that? That's coming up next on Locked On Dodgers. You ever check into your bank account and wonder, where did all my money go between dining out, online shopping, and, of course, entertainment? It's easy to lose track of your finances. That's where Monarch Money comes in, your personal CFO, giving you full visibility and control over your finances. And Monarch Money isn't just a budgeting app. It's complete financial command center. You can track all of your accounts, your investments, and spending all in one place, so you can just stop managing your money and start building wealth, which is incredibly important. So when you start using Monarch Money, you can realize just how much you're spending on food delivery, right? And all of a sudden, my goodness, now you can budget smarter and save more. And instead of juggling between this app and that app, and I got something over here and I got something over there, you can use Monarch to check your finances, track your spending, and even plan long-term goals. So take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use the code LOCKEDONMLB at monarchmoney.com for 50% off of your first year. That's monarchmoney.com, code LOCKEDONMLB for half off your first year. Welcome back to Lock On Dodgers. Thanks for making this your first listen every single day. Don't forget to subscribe to Locked On Dodgers. Why don't you hit that Locked On Rams podcast as well? Give that a subscription, and you can check me and Doug McCain out over there as well. Of course, Locked On Dodgers I should say Locked On Lakers with the Cambros. Two great guys. Those guys are as plugged into the Lakers as anybody else. So check that out as well. Okay, so obviously, the series with the San Diego Padres is comfortably in the rearview mirror. But me being the new guy here at Locked On Dodgers, I kind of want to go over something that I thought was really interesting with the series with the Padres and where we are in the Padres rivalry, the battle, the division race, everything. And in particular, the Tatis and Ohtani both wearing a bunch of pitches in a relatively short period of time. Now, they play each other 6 more times. The next series is coming up middle of August in LA. The final series between the two teams will be down in San Diego. We will see whether or not that it is a division race at that point, whether or not the Dodgers have pulled away, whether or not San Diego has closed the gap. We will see what that looks like, because that will inform some of this. If the race is closer, you're far less likely to see guys settling scores in moments, because the games become too important. Winning the division is a big advantage, as opposed to obviously having to go into that wild card situation. Certainly, if we're talking about being one of the top 2 seeds in the National League, that's even more important. So the stakes will certainly matter to a certain degree. The stakes will matter, and the closer they are, the less likely this is to continue to escalate. And I'm not so sure. I wouldn't bet the house on it, but I'm not so sure that this might not be over anyway. And I'm not so sure that Shohei Ohtani just didn't do it with the wave of a hand. Because let's kind of go through this a little bit. This is Locked On Dodgers. I'm going to advocate for the Dodgers. I'm not going to pretend that I'm not a Dodger fan. I obviously am, and I want the Dodgers to win. I want them to beat the Padres, et cetera, et cetera. But just for a second, put yourself in the shoes of the San Diego Padres and put yourself in the shoes of Mike Shildt and Fernando Tatis Jr. specifically. The Dodgers have hit Fernando Tatis 6 times in his career. 6. The rest of Major League Baseball, the remaining 28 teams, have hit Fernando Tatis 4 times. So one team has hit him 6 times. The other teams collectively have hit him 4. Switch that around. What if Shohei Ohtani had been hit 6 times by the Padres and 4 times by the rest of baseball? Would you think that's intentional? Would you care if that's intentional? Would you think, oh, that's a rookie on the mound. He doesn't know where he's going. He's making his major league debut. I guess that one got away from him. Let's just sit here and hope that it doesn't happen again. Of course you wouldn't. Nobody would. And that's where the Padres were with Tatis. That's why they felt they needed to engage with the Dodgers in the way that they did. Now, choosing Ohtani was interesting. That was a very specific choice because now that means the Dodgers have no choice but to say, you don't get to hit him. Look, and again, I don't even want to say anybody's name. But if you hit Tommy Edman, if you hit Michael Conforto, if you hit Teoscar Hernandez, if you hit Max Muncy, if you hit Hae-Sung Kim, but you hit Ohtani or Betts or Freeman or maybe even Wilson. Now we have to do this. We have to be the last one to do this because baseball, right? Because this is how those guys see the world and this is how they operate and this is how they want this stuff to go. So when Tatis got hit, you knew it was coming. It was a 5-run game. And you knew that Ohtani was probably going to be the one to pay the price, and he did. And they did it in a reckless, crazy manner with 100 miles an hour up around the shoulders, neck, and head area, which is not how you do it. You do it down below, the waist, the way they hit him the first time in the series. And Dave Roberts and Mike Shildt, we saw as I'm going to beat your you-know-what in this whole thing, and it got heated, and it got hot, and it felt like it was ready to explode. And they hit Ohtani. And then he holds his hand up, and everybody goes, like, what? And then Ohtani goes down to first base, and he's shaking hands. And Ohtani's walking over to the Padre dugout and laughing with some of the Padre players, and the temperature in the room dropped about 50 degrees. What felt like a boiling point, what felt like something that you don't get to hit him, and if we're going to go to war on this, we will go to war on this, was all of a sudden over. Now, we'll see. We'll see what happens if you fast forward another couple of months to when they play each other again in the middle of August. We'll see what the Dodgers feel about it. We'll see if Fernando Tatis is healthy. We'll see all of the variables in this and where they are in these moments. But the fact that Ohtani called his guys off, the fact that he seemed, I don't know how else to characterize it other than to say that he seemed oddly okay with it. I don't know if it's an Ohtani thing. I don't know if it's a Japanese baseball cultural thing. I don't know if he realized, hey, I'm the one that's wearing these things. This has to stop before I take one in a place that does permanently or at least temporarily injure me. Let's just end this and get going. Or we'll all come back and start throwing at each other again. We'll see. But had Ohtani not held his hand up, had Ohtani not sent the Dodgers back to the dugout, had Ohtani not say, we're not doing this. You saw it. Kershaw was over the rail like that. Kershaw was ready to go. He's old school. He wants to, make sure that you don't take advantage of his players like that. I respect it. But that Kershaw saw it, I guess Ohtani doesn't want it. I guess I'm not going to do it. I don't know if anybody other than Ohtani, maybe Mookie, maybe Freddie, would have been able to call him off like that, but they did. Or if this is we'll write it down. We'll remember. You don't get to hit him. We're going to take care of it. Maybe it's not Tatis. Maybe Tatis is, paid in advance. Maybe it's Manny Machado. I know Dodger fans would hate to see that. Maybe it's, Xander Bogaerts, who was kind of wearing the Dodgers out the last time they played. Maybe it's Jackson Merrill, who's their, up and coming great player. Or maybe it's nothing. And that's even on the table is an incredible testament to what Ohtani has brought to this team. I don't know if it's great for excitement. I don't know if it's great for the drama of a midseason series, because that was awesome to watch, quite frankly. But it certainly was something that was unexpected, to say the least. All right, Dodgers and Rockies getting ready to go at it in Colorado for a 3-game set. Dodgers with an opportunity to put a little distance between themselves and the rest of the NL West, going up against one of the worst teams in baseball. We will be all over that on Locked On Dodgers starting tomorrow. And thank you for making Locked On Dodgers your first listen today. Your second listen, of course, you can check out the all-new Locked On MLB Game Night. Every game, every night, all season long. Get local analysis on a national scale. Find MLB Game Night on Locked On MLB on YouTube or wherever you get your podcast. Until next time, I am Travis Rogers. This is Locked On Dodgers, and go blue.